Uncle Ron and stuff. Curiosity. I wonder if everybody has it. Probably a sliding scale. Everybody's got it, right? Curiosity. I don't even know what curiosity means other than questions. Questions. I have an example, and I haven't really thought it all the way out, but uh, I try to keep up on the news. I read some online news sources. And China is always in the news from one way or another. And I look at various things, their population problems and the economics. It's interesting that China has both free enterprise companies or small businesses. We also have state owned businesses. And which is interesting. I don't think, other than private prisons or something where they have the prisoners make various things in prison, I don't believe that we have a similar economics. But anyway, uh, uh, part all of a sudden it occurred to me because I was, the China thing, China this, China that. All occurred for years and years and years and years and years and years. Somebody in my family, when we would get together, they would bring up the government and what we were doing wrong and what was stupid and everything. And one of the things was that the Chinese owned a lot of our debt. There was always this big fear that, if we pissed them off, they would dump all of their debt holdings, U.S. Treasury bonds, and whatever that they own. And they do own a lot. Although I read the other day that they only owed like 1% of the total U.S. debt. It's not a big number. I don't even know what the debt's up to. Every day it's bigger. But anyway, the point being was that I wondered, because the Chinese, if you look at their, they got a lot of, they've been doing a lot of infrastructure stuff for the last 15, 20 years after they opened up themselves to private enterprises, not all government regulated or owned. Anyway, I wondered if they issued bonds, if they issued debt like we do. And the answer is they do. Okay, so the thing was, the question that came to mind was, does the Chinese government issue debt that is bought by other countries? And the answer was yes. And the question is, why did I have that question? Where did that question come from? Curiosity. Where does it come from? And I kind of thinking maybe, well, I knew a little bit about China, and I knew a little bit about finances and debt and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, there was some neural connection made that says, well, I never thought about it, and I don't know. Do the Chinese government issue debt instruments? And so I could look it up. But but the real question of the question is, why did I have the question? Where did the question come from? I had no reason. I mean, curiosity. Uh, Curiosity. I have always sort of had it. Um, but with the internet and Google searches, you can satisfy a lot of your curiosity on anything. But you've got to first formulate a question. And that's what I'm trying to talk about here is the curiosity associated with curiosity. What are the elements required? I think I've talked about it before. I've been watching some cosmology lectures on YouTube, and there's a lot of obviously there was curiosity by various mathematicians and scientists that posed questions that had not been posed before. Well, if this and that and that and that and that, then what about this? And they would pose a question and then try to search around and using mathematics primarily to try to come up with an answer that mirrored reality. So curiosity, it must be a sliding scale. Everybody must have it to some degree, and it it has probably has a wide range. Some people have a little bit, some people have a lot, and I don't know what triggers it. Obviously, I think you must have some underlying knowledges. Could you have curiosity about? Well, I do. It's like DNA stuff. There's another aspect to curiosity. Is yeah, I have some. I do not understand DNA gene sequencing and that sort of stuff down at the level of the proteins or whatever it is down there. But I haven't jumped in with both feet and tried to sort it out. Uh, and therefore, I don't have probably enough basis for these sort of connections to that would pose a question which I would have a burning desire to satisfy by research to answer one of my stupid questions. Curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. You remember that? There's got to be other euphemisms about curiosity, but the whole issue of curiosity. Um, I haven't looked it up to see the etymology of the word. I expect it goes back a long ways, but it is a psychological human characteristic. It is not obviously human. Various animals must have curiosity, and they learn, they sort. Is curiosity a basic element of learning? Well, it certainly isn't in where we have established public education. They're just you need to know this, so you go and you get taught this stuff, primarily not at an understanding level, but an information memorization level. And out of that, I don't know if curiosity is encouraged or not. One would think that you'd want it to be encouraged, at least in the science and tech, or STEM as it's now called. Uh, but again, anybody have a formula for the creation of curiosity? Can you take a person and teach them this and show them that and have them do this and do some of that and somehow measure a increase or decrease or the development of curiosity? Uh, Curiosity, learning, desire to learn. It's more than that. I mean, a lot of people. I've always had to learn stuff because it needed maintenance. There was a quote the other day I saw that said, "Everybody wants to build, but nobody wants to maintain." The technology at this point has gotten is it it's beyond maintenance. The average person hardly knows how to use this stuff, and with AI, it's only going to get worse. And the underlying principles of the technology will beyond. They're already beyond me. They're going to be beyond most people. But we'll be taught that there's some element of faith that we should have and that sort of thing. Curiosity, I don't know if it's encouraged. Uh, does the government really want us curious about how things are actually going on? I don't know. I wouldn't think they would want us to know all that. Now, journalists, I assume they have a lot of curiosity. They get these fragments of information, and somehow or another, a spark, a jump goes and makes a connection, says, yeah, but if this and that, then where did that come from? How did this happen? Who's behind that? Secrets. So a lot of secrets are meant to dampen curiosity. You're not supposed to know that. If you had that fragment of information, then you might start asking questions. Curiosity might come into play, and you would ask some questions that various institutions, people, whatever, don't want you to know. Uh, I think you can look up, like on the internet, how to build an atomic bomb if you wanted to. You could look up just about anything. I don't know. I probably looked at how to make an atomic bomb three, four, 5 dozen times. I'm probably on somebody's intelligence database radar for having done that because they're curious. Why am I being curious about how to make an atomic bomb? I don't have any intention to make one, but I've known about them, but I know very little about it. So, and there's another aspect of learning. Why do you learn and have curiosity about some things, but not others? Like I said, I don't know enough about DNA, but I don't seem to be motivated to take it on as a subject that I need to understand at a deeper level, or even fill in a lot of the gaps in my information associated with it. I know it's really highly important. It's one of those incredible areas of human knowledge, but I don't know why. I'm not drawn to it as strongly as I am to like cosmology or understanding how HVAC, heating and air conditioning system works. I continue to try to add to my knowledge there because it's real important to my everyday reality. I want to try to keep the things that I, if you want to call them own or rent, since you never really own anything, keep them going as opposed to paying somebody else. I try to do it myself, and I've talked about that numerous times. And that requires knowledge. And every time I think I have, knowledge, I'm willing to tackle something. And then invariably, I wind up adding some new knowledge I didn't know before, and it gets deeper and deeper, but never all of it. No. Curiosity. Uh, I have a lot of it. I say I have a lot. I don't know. It's a relative term. Um, Curiosity about where we are and what we are. That's a big one. I get my answers always come back in a lot of well, how, but not why. And I had this professor in college. He said, "All right, what is the question to why? What is the answer to why?" And it's because that's the only real answer to why is because. Well, that's Son talked about it the other day. That is a completely unsatisfactory answer. And I guess I do a lot of those. I get a lot of completely unsatisfactory answers to some of the questions I pose. And I don't know what to make of that. Partly, I mean, it's got to be my failure because I have not spent enough time and effort accumulating facts, whatever they are, facts about the particular subject, and allowing my brain to chew on them. And I think the chewing brain thing is real common. I put in a lot of crap and I stir it around and I do things, and then periodically I'll have this. I want to. It's not an epiphany. It's a new understanding comes into play. You have some components, and then you understand those components, and then they eventually fall into their logical reason they're there. Okay, you get some better understanding of the overall operational aspects. Uh, Curiosity is, as you know by now, I ask questions I don't know the answers to. That's the whole point. I'm trying to get shared thinking about various topics. Now, I don't spend a lot of time with learned people and have the opportunity to discuss these things, but I don't know if they're of any interest to anybody else or not. And I'm sure curiosity, there's probably plenty of books about it, and it's the whole book is wrapped around one sentence or phrase or concept, and then they just grind it to death over the next 150 pages. And I've read things like that, that, there was one good sentence in the whole thing, one good takeaway, and then the rest is just filler, or they just are banging you over the head with the same concept over and over again. I used to think the homilies, if you want to call them that, and churches were like that. They had one sort of central theme, and then they just hammered it over and over again. But the central theme, I appreciated the fact that there was uh, what's the word? No, not, um, Jesus often spoke in parables, little stories that conveyed a concept or an idea, and parables. Anyway, what's going on in my head? I'm still doing the physics lectures and mathematics, and I'm beginning to get a better understanding of the mathematics, more so than I've ever had before, and differential equations and integrations and things like that I did get taught from a memorization point of view, but never fully understood, or a topology of spaces and the mathematics of spaces. And I am grasping a better handle of it. And it all has to do with reference frames and the size of the samples that you're playing with. It's such a simple concept in some sense, but I didn't grasp it at the time. The underlying mathematics have taken very small sections, like mapping, very small sections of a curve, and from that being able to derive the characteristics of the curve and what it meant or might mean in certain domains or in spaces. And I go back to the issue of pi again and why it is such a weird and magical number. And it appears in a lot of different things. And I think it appears there because it is literally an infinite sequence of numbers which uh, don't, they're indicative of the analog nature. It's where mathematics and reality come together, and you can't come down to a single teeny weeny little part. It's like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You can know this about something, but you won't know that, or you can know that about something, but you won't know this. It's inherent reality uh, boundary. And pi is sort of like that. It's where mathematics hits reality in a big way, and central to that, curiosity. Um, how do you encourage it? Where does it come from? Um, why do some people have it, some don't? I assume it's got to be, and I've said it already now, that it's got to be related to, you have to have some knowledge about some aspects, and then there is some sort of lightning bolt connection between the two that say, well, wait a minute, you don't, what is it? Yeah, do the Chinese government issue debt like we do? I didn't know that. I never thought about it. No one's ever talked about it with me. I've never read about it. But all of a sudden, out of because I know about national debts, we got a big one, and I know something about the Chinese. Although I was startled to realize that there are Chinese private enterprises as well as government enterprises. I would have thought all the government enterprises would have been, if you will, converted over to private enterprise. I expect the Soviet Union, after the fall of the wall, Russia, what remained, if you will, that they were all state owned. All manufacturing, everything was state owned. And they did allow private enterprise to come in. So there must have been a long time when the Russian government still owned and controlled various industries, factories, workers, all that stuff. But they had allowed private enterprise to come in, and I'm sure that's, through bribery and other things, companies were established. Private enterprise was established in Russia, probably by a lot of the criminal elements, the strong and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, it did occur to me, and that what's the difference between curiosity and occur? It's like, okay, one and one equal two. If it That's what the Chinese model did, then that's probably what the Soviets did. Is that they had government-owned facilities, and they also allowed private enterprise to come in. And I think in the end, the government gave up the controlling aspect to say, okay, how many shoes are we going to make this year? And at one time they did that. It was central control of manufacturing and quantities and where they're going to put their priorities. And that simply doesn't work. The data is so poor, so bad, and it wouldn't. It doesn't take a genius to understand that's not. You can't do it that way. Maybe if you were at a village level, you would know how many people you had and what their conditions were or something. But anyway, uh, that's more of a realization that came off of a curiosity question. So I don't know. Did I have curiosity about how the Russians handled the breakdown of the Soviet Union and what happened in Russia at the economic level? No, it had not occurred to me. I wasn't interested, or I didn't know enough, or whatever. I don't know. And that's part of the questioning about curiosity. How does it work? Um, why is it not work in some domains? Um, this has rambled on too long, as always. I'm like the minister giving his homily. The main point of all this was curiosity. What do you think about curiosity? Does it happen all the time to you, or only infrequently? Or do you have curiosity at all? What triggers curiosity for you? Books? Fiction? Getting inside other people's heads and what they're experiencing or not experiencing? I had curiosity about emotions because I didn't know how to name them. I didn't know that, what am I feeling? What is the emotional name for that? Whatever it is that I'm feeling that I recognize as something else besides just pure talking in my head. Okay. Curiosity. I think it's a good thing, but curiosity killed the cat. That's what they said. That's enough for today. This is Uncle Ron and stuff, and today was curiosity, and I haven't posted in a long time. And this is the 5th of May in 2023. I wish you well and good health, and may curiosity strike you constantly.